Hey all, welcome back to the Handbook. Most agencies and consultancies don't hit a ceiling because of lack of talent or ambition. No, they hit a ceiling because the business outgrows the systems it was built on. I felt that myself in past roles. The moment when referrals dry up, delivery gets messy, or the founder is in every decision and everyone realizes we can't keep scaling like this, not without a more mature approach. And that's a conundrum that I know that a lot of professional services businesses face. We're great at what we do for our clients, but not always so good at investing in the structures that enable growth for the business. We fine-tune processes, but don't rethink the operating model. We chase big clients, but don't build the commercial systems to support them. And eventually, the cracks show. Well, today's guest has spent more than 2 decades helping businesses fix exactly that. Jason Swenk is an agency founder turned advisor who's coached thousands of agencies and consulting firms on how to scale with confidence. After growing and selling his own 8-figure agency, he codified the patterns into an 8-system framework for predictable growth, covering everything from clarity and positioning to delivery, ops, sales, and leadership. He's also recorded more than 850 podcast episodes on his show, Smart Agency Masterclass, which means he's had a front row seat to every growth mistake and breakthrough our industry tends to repeat. In this episode, we break down Jason's framework and talk honestly about why so many service businesses get stuck and what operators, COOs, and leadership teams can do to build a more scalable, resilient model. If you're thinking about the next stage of operational maturity, this is one worth settling in for. Thanks for listening to The Handbook, the operations podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Scoro. If you're running an agency or consulting firm, you might feel good about bringing in tools like Monday, ClickUp, or Teamwork. They give you lots of modules and integrations if you have the time to build out your own system. But they're still not designed to run the business end to end. You end up plugging gaps with spreadsheets and extra tools for things like revenue forecasting, deeper utilization analysis, and board level reporting. Data is scattered and you still don't have a single source of truth. Scoro is different. It's a modern PSA that combines the power of an all-in-one platform with a modern UX. From pipeline to projects to billing to reporting, you get one place to plan, deliver, and track your business. Leaders get the dashboards they need, delivery folks see the work and numbers that matter, and specialists just get a clean view of their tasks and time. Go to Scoro.com/demo to arrange a call and learn how Scoro can help take your business to the next level of maturity. And for the VIP treatment, tell them Harv sent you. Now, let's get to the podcast. Jason, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. First of all, shout out to you for having been podcasting for nearly 12 years, I think, with Smart Agency Masterclass, isn't it? So I wanted to start there. Tell us a bit about your podcast and what's kept you going for so long.
I kind of started by accident, right? Like 11 years ago, someone was asking me a question. I was like, man, this might be fun. Let's do it over a Google Hangout. And I didn't even know what a podcast was. And then someone told me, I was like, well, let's convert all these Google Hangouts to a podcast. And so we've been doing a podcast for 11 years, never missed a week. I think maybe 4 years ago, we switched to doing 2 a week. And I don't know, it just gives me a lot of energy talking to really cool people and hearing their story.
Good learning opportunity as well, just to see what people are doing and all that kind of stuff.
It's crazy, right? 14 years ago to the day is when I sold the first agency. And at the time when I sold the agency, I was like, man, I want to forget everything I ever knew about it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun when I do the podcast. Like I remember a lot of the stories, but I also learned so much because I've done 850 episodes. So, you know, I learned from everybody I have a interview with.
I'm intrigued by what you just said there. Why did you have the feeling that you wanted to forget everything that happened there?
When I sold that agency, we grew it up to over 8 figures, but I felt like at that time I was at the max. Like I was like, I'm holding the agency back. And what I didn't realize, especially years later, when you want to scale your agency, scale your business, there's 2 who's. Who do you need to hire to figure out the how you haven't figured out? And who do you need to become? Because you keep growing, right? I learned something every day. And all the stuff I know now, I'm like, man, I could have grew that agency to 9 figures or 10 figures, right? Like with all the stuff that we know. But at the
Right.
time I was like, sell the damn thing.
Fair enough. So you've founded two agencies before you decided to get into consulting. So does that experience now influence the way you coach as well then, all of those kind of
Oh
learnings?
yeah. Because I always would joke with people. I'm like, there's not one thing you can tell me that I haven't gone through or haven't heard. And so I would say
Hmm.
that on the podcast all the time. And then one person told me, they're like, well, hey, my partner just left to join a cult. I was like, I've never heard that. So then that was the story that I was like, only thing I've ever heard. And then it happened again. And people are like, yeah, you remember
Yeah.
that story you said? That happened to me too. I'm like, geez, like what happened? So
Patterns everywhere,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
So what I wanted to focus on today is one of the tools that you've developed through your consultancy called the 8-step framework to predictable
Yep.
profit. Before I want to take the listeners on a bit of a whirlwind tour of that. And as our listeners are ops folks at agencies and consultancies, right? So we're going to go through a bit of a tour about each of those areas. But before that, if you could give us a bit of just some context around this.
Yeah. So I started an agency by accident, like most agency owners or like CEOs, right? Where one of my best friends looked like Justin Timberlake from NSYNC, and this was in 1999. And so
Okay.
I created a fake band, fake website called In Shit. It got popular, and then people started asking me to design websites for them. So I was like, all right, cool,
No
like
way.
$500, and quickly learned that I have to charge way more than $500, and eventually wound up working with brands like LegalZoom and Hitachi and AT&T and some of the biggest brands in the world. So there was a big roller coaster there. But I tell you the accidental agency owner because like I didn't even know what an invoice was. Like Google wasn't around
Mhm.
back then. I couldn't figure that out. I was like, I had to ask my dad, and my dad was like, "Oh man, you're gonna be, it's gonna be fun
You're
in
in trouble.
business." So, and for all the operators listening, right? Like, I know your visionaries or your CEOs, they're always like constantly trying to go different directions, chase this shiny red object. That was me. I was the chief disruptor. And I needed to hire the operators like all of you guys listening to like throttle me back, get me focused.
And so that's where this has come from. So why don't we then kick off by diving into each of these
Yep.
kind of systems, as you call it. The first one is clarity.
Yep.
So tell us what that means in practice.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying about the accidental, right? So for many years, I didn't know who I wanted my clients to be. I was just taking on any business that was coming to me. Our business was based on referrals, which just isn't scalable. So, the business I was getting, I kept getting more and more of those. But the problem was I could never upgrade those clients. I could never upgrade them to, 500 couldn't go up to 10,000 because that was just a
Hmm.
different range. And I also was doing everything. Like I was doing web design, I was doing SEO, I was doing pay per click, I was doing all this.
Mm.
And so at a time I got to probably about 2 million and I wanted to quit. I hated what I was doing because everything was coming to me to make a
Mm.
decision. And my team didn't have the power to make a decision. And what I realized was, and I even took a job interview. That's how bad it got. Like we were profitable, we were making lots of money, but like I was working 80 hours, 90 hours a week. It was just nuts. And so took an interview. They asked me 2 questions that changed everything. And it's a great
Mm.
exercise for everyone to listen to and do and make sure the CEOs do it as well. So it gives them clarity. But they asked me, what do you want to do every day? And what don't you never want to do? So the exercise
Mm.
is this: get a sheet of paper, put your fist on that sheet of paper, draw a circle
Hmm.
around it.
Hmm.
Concentrate for about 30 minutes of all the things you hate doing. So I hated doing project management, account management, talking to clients, right? Like TPS reports in Office Space, all the stupid, mundane stuff. I just couldn't stand. So I wrote down all
Hmm.
the stuff I hated. Then after that, I started looking at going, what are all the things that I love doing? Man, I love coaching my team. I love creating content. I love podcasting. I love all this kind of stuff. And what
Hmm.
that did was that gave me the first glimpse at where we should go and what I should do, who I should hire, what I should say no to, what I should delegate. Right.
Mm.
And then I told my team this. So then it gave them the power to make decisions. It's like you're in a boat and you're driving for about 10 hours And I go, Harv, man, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. If the boat changes course, come wake me up. You're going to wake
Hmm.
me up every 5 minutes unless I tell you where we're going. I give you that North
Yeah.
Star. And so it just, that was the clarity. Once you figure that out, like who's your perfect client, what you should actually do for them. And here's another
Hmm.
quick exercise, and I'll shut up and you can ask me anything else going forward. Think about it this way. What clients would you work with and what service would you do for them if you were going to be paid on performance only?
Mm-hmm.
And that will give you clarity because we're doing too much for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, what happens if you start growing and you're scaling and you haven't got that clarity? We can understand that in the beginning stages, maybe you're doing a bit of everything for everyone, and that's a bit inefficient. But as you scale, I'm sure you've seen this.
It's like I said, you'll get to a certain ceiling. Everyone's ceiling's a
Hmm.
little different. And if you don't have that clarity, you're going to be stuck there. And then you're going to be like,
Mm.
man, I just want to go back to when it was fun. And when it
Hmm.
was fun, it's way scaled down and it all depends on you. So you're more
Hmm.
of a freelancer or a lifestyle business where it doesn't have the ability to scale because you didn't give
Mm.
the power to your teammates to make a decision because they have to
Yeah.
come to you. So you have 12 different lanes at a toll booth,
Hmm.
but 11 of them are closed.
Makes sense. And I guess that my other question is that exercise, I would imagine, should be done with some regularity. And I don't mean every couple of months, but perhaps every couple of years, you might outgrow the services or the clients and stuff like that
Well,
that you
yeah,
have.
the kind of the 8 systems of the agency playbook really are set for each time your agency scales up to a new
Hmm.
level, you kind of
Mm.
should look back at all of these because
Mm.
your agency is a different place. What got you
Yeah.
to where you're at now is not going to get you to the place you want to go tomorrow. So it's kind of like these foundational systems you just reset, communicate to the
Yeah.
team and be like, yeah, because you can't pivot. That's the beauty about business. And
Hmm.
you should pivot, especially I had to pivot through the dot bomb. I had to pivot through 9/11. I had to pivot through COVID. I had to pivot through AI. Like
Yeah.
you always have to
There's
pivot.
always something.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, in terms of those brackets, you said at every stage. What do we mean by that? Is that headcounts? Is that revenue?
Yeah. So think about the first stage I described it as getting clarity of where you're going, right?
Mhm.
The second stage is really like you're doing all the delivery work, right? Or you're
Mm.
doing all the sales work. So there's multiple stages, and you can even look at it based on revenue, right? Let's call the first stage getting over 500,000 in revenue. And then the next
Mhm.
stage, maybe a 1.5, 2 million, and so on, right? And also, too, the more layers you get in your business on
Yeah.
management, right? Like we had over
Mm.
100 people. So, there's a lot of stages. Like whenever you feel
Yeah.
stuck, look back and go like, all right,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
systems do I need to reset?
Mhm. Yep. Let's move into the second system, which is positioning. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So a lot of agencies look like Me Too agencies. They talk about their people, process, and portfolio. And I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, if I hear the P's again, I'm going to pee on myself, right? Like, like stop talking about that stuff. And all these systems are set up in order as well. So if you don't have clarity of who you want
Mhm.
your clients to be and what you actually do, you can't understand what their biggest challenges are. So then you can
Mm.
position yourself as that strategic advisor, that person that's going to challenge. Most agencies are set up as order takers. Client comes in with something they want them to do, they go do it. I would like to reset it and say, you told me what you want. Why do you want it? What's creating this? What's the challenge? And then I could help them out. And so your positioning has to be that way. So, for example, I had a member for our mastermind come to us and he was like, hey, I do nonprofit websites.
Mhm.
Descriptive. I like that, but it's not good, right? It's not going to makes them separate from everybody else that does websites. And I
Mhm.
said, all right, let's go through an exercise. Let's figure out what these nonprofits' biggest challenges are. What do they actually want? What do they actually need? So what we determined was their problem is they wanted to reach more people. They wanted to spread their message and they
Mhm.
wanted to get more members, donors, and volunteers. So I said, okay, why don't we position it on your website and all your marketing and your elevator pitch and saying, we help nonprofits get more members, donors, and volunteers so they can spread their message, and you can add on to it. And all it is used to make someone curious, tell me more or read more. And so that's what all these agencies need to do, is lead with the challenge or the solution of how they can actually help someone.
I think you're right. We sometimes forget about talking about the solution and talk about just what we do. And if you really want people to understand that you're solving a problem, you have to speak to them at that level, don't you?
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move into system 3, which is offering. And by the way, before we get into that, you did say something else that caught my attention, is that these systems need to be gone through in order to nail it and get it right.
Yeah. You really can't skip around, especially the first time you go through it, because they all build upon each other.
Yeah. Okay. So system 3 was offering. So tell us about that.
So most agencies are like, Harv, are you married?
I'm single.
Still single. All right. But when you do find your significant other, you're not going to go up to them probably the first time you see them and say, you marry me. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So that's what a lot of agencies are doing when they sell their retainer. And they're all trying to get predictable revenue. But when they sell a retainer, a lot of times they sell a retainer at month to month. I'm like, oh, that's not really a retainer. That's just selling a project that they can cancel at any time.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out what's the right offering and what's the offering ladder. And so what I always tell people is we have to start with a foot in the door. Something easy, something that provides value, something you can actually build with them, that builds trust and closes faster, closes more often, right? Which can lead to higher things. So for example, I was just speaking at a conference yesterday or 2 days ago, and I walked them through this kind of case story. This one agency came to me, they were selling SEO retainer for $5,000 a month, right? Month to month. They basically hold on their clients for 6 months, which is not very good, right? I think at the end of the day, what's 5,000 times 6, 42? Is that right? 42,000 average price?
30,000
or 30. There you go. See, I'm horrible with math. I'm a colors person, draw with colors, right?
That's okay. I pulled out a calculator.
There you go. All right. Thanks for making me feel better. All right. So then I told them, I said, let's change it up a little bit. Let's sell them like a 90-minute session with you. So we're going to charge $1,000 or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what we charge, because if you can get someone to pay you and they have a good experience, they're going to 20 times more likely to pay you later on. So we did that. In that session, we would position a particular challenge that they're having. Maybe on this one is, let's rank for this one keyword. And I said, well, how long would it take for them to get ranked? 2 months. Oh, okay, cool. So let's do a 3-month project, and we'll charge $5,000 for that, or each month. So it's $15,000. But in 2 months, when you actually get them ranked, now we're going to position the retainer, right? Then that retainer is going to be at $9,000 because we already showed them value, and we're going to position that at 12 months because now they trust you. So now they're making well over 6 figures on that same client. They're closing faster. They built trust. They're charging more. They're making more profit. So it's about figuring out that right offering, like figuring out your pricing, figuring out what you actually need to charge. What's that one thing that we can close on a client really quick? So that's offering.
Really interesting. I have one question about that. Like, I don't know the data on the mix in different markets or anywhere really in terms of retainer and just non-retainer work. What are you seeing? Has there been a shift in growth in one or the other with your clients, or not?
So all of our members that go through this offering ladder I walked you through, 95% of their business is retainers, and for over 12 months. But now they're predictable. I mean, that's why a lot of our members are able to sell or have the ability to sell, because they have predictable revenue, they predictable profit, right? They're charging enough. They built trust. It makes a huge difference versus selling a retainer and then they can cancel at any time.
Yeah. And before we move into the next system, I wanted to get your opinion on kind of productization as well. What is your take on productization?
I think you should productize internal, but
Mm,
make it look customized external.
interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Because everyone thinks they're unique. So make them feel unique, but you have
Hmm.
everything productized. So you know exactly how long something takes. Unless you're
Hmm.
doing, for example, there's always going to be scenarios like we built LegalZoom, like programmed it, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, we were building something new at the time that no one else has done. So there's going to be a lot of gotchas there, right? You can't really productize that. That's
Hmm.
customization. But if I'm doing a website for the public facing website of Aflac, I know exactly how long that's going to take. I know
Mm,
exactly the milestones and all the things we know. So in the back end, it's all productized.
mm. Makes sense. Jason, let's move into system 4 then.
Yep.
Prospecting.
And most people start there, right? And they don't have the first three systems, which are the foundational systems. So that's why a lot of
Hmm.
people fail, or a lot of people get that, that BS email. Here's how to close all these businesses and I can generate 20 leads. I wish that
Yep.
person was removed from the internet because
You know what, Jason? Sorry for interrupting you, but actually, prospecting is distinct from sales, which is actually system 5. So I would love for you to actually help me understand what prospecting you even mean by that.
so most people, and it goes back to what I was saying before, like the referrals, right?
Mm,
Most people get to a certain point based on referrals. But I think I treat prospecting like a three-legged stool. It should be inbound, outbound, and strategic partnerships. So if
okay.
any two go down or one goes down, you still are at least balancing, right? Your
Hmm.
business doesn't go over. So you have to figure out like what's a good way to reach and start a conversation with someone. Do I have to knock on their door? Do I have a LinkedIn outreach strategy? Please don't automate it. Please don't use automation and send these dumb videos to me that are totally automated and you said there were customization. Like we start off with a lie. I'm not going to
Hmm.
trust you and people are not going to do that either. Like in outbound, I always tell people make a hit list of the top 20 companies you want to work with.
Hmm.
Figure out how you can help them out. Research who do you know that knows the decision maker. Ask for connection, right? Do a lot of research and you'll be able to reach them. My fourth interview, I still remember it. You
Hmm.
go to jasonswank.com/4. That will take
Hmm.
you to it. It probably looked like an Oompa Loompa on the video, right? Like the video quality is really bad. But I interviewed Del Ross of IHG, like International Hotel
Hmm.
Group, and he was the
Hmm.
CMO of them at the time. And I was like, how can a agency work with a big company? It's like, call me up and offer me something I haven't heard of, and we'll do a test project. Like he would like tens
Hmm.
of thousands of dollars for test projects. And
Hmm.
that's the foot in the door, right? And get you in there. So make a hit list for the outbound. Inbound, you should be creating content, right? Create a
Hmm.
podcast. I tell agencies, please create a podcast. They're like, I don't know. I don't know. And then once they do, it's the best thing they've ever done. And it
Hmm.
takes a long time. It doesn't take 11 years. It takes a couple of years to get momentum. You're doing this for the long term. And then the
Hmm.
strategic partners, who else are going after your clients? Technology companies, publications, associations, all these. And once you build the systems around each three, man, you have so much momentum, but it's not that instant gratification everybody wants. That's
Hmm.
the issue.
Yeah. That's all super interesting because I think you're right. We do bypass this step and start thinking about sales directly without activating or putting the thinking behind these kinds of
Yep,
systems. So
exactly.
totally appreciate that. That's really interesting. All right. So from there we get into system 5, which is sales.
Yep. So it's about like most people don't have a sales system. Most people have the owner doing the sales and they have their own process. But when the owner's doing the sales, think about like we just had our event for our members last week. It's week long.
Hmm.
And if the owner's doing the sales, that means a week of no sales,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And think about how much time you get back. I remember when I hired a salesperson and they did a great job. It freed up maybe 30 hours of my time.
Hmm.
Holy
That's a
cow.
huge chunk.
We all want,
Yeah.
we started an agency to have freedom. There you go. Get rid of that.
Hmm.
And then if you can get rid of the delivery and pass that to the team, you get your freedom. So you got to think about what's the sales system. So we think about the qualification. Like I always, when I'm talking to a prospect, I'm going to go through what I call NBAT, need, budget, authority, and timing.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need what I offer? If they don't, pass them on to someone else. Give a referral to a referral partner, keep score of that, and then hopefully they give you ones back. So you're making deposits before you make withdrawals. So it goes back to the prospecting. Budget, ask the damn budget. Like I was speaking 2 days ago and I asked the room, I go, how many people ask for the budget? Half the hands go up. How many people actually,
Mm-hmm.
keep your hands up. How many people actually get the budget? Half the hands went down. So that means 25% of agencies don't know what a budget of a prospect is. So then they're wasting tons of time with the wrong prospect. Or, and this happened to me, they pitch a deal that's a good price for the agency, but way under what that brand wanted, and you lose the deal because you were too low.
I've seen this happening as well. That's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you the budget buster really quick. So I'd always be, what's the budget? I don't have a budget. I don't know. You tell me. So I'm like, oh, you don't have a budget? This has to fit your personality too. Okay. On the first one. The second one will work for everybody. So when the people would say, I don't have a budget, I'd be like, cool, man. I love working with people that don't have a budget. Then we don't have to worry about money. We could try out all kinds of cool things. And I kind of smile.
I love that.
Right. And they're like, ooh. Then I go into what I call the reverse auctioneer, because most people start off small. So they'll be like, hey, Harv, are you trying to stay around $1,000, $5,000, $10,000? What are you trying to stay around? What you're going to remember, Harv, is the $1,000. So I price anchored very low. So I do the reverse auctioneer. I go, Harv, are you trying to stay around $1 billion, $1 million, $10,000? What are you trying to stay around? I'm going to get the budget every single time.
Very interesting. Whoever's listening, please try that and share your feedback. I'd love that. That's super interesting. Both of those points, I think, really helpful, because I've been in those situations where the clients don't want to admit what they're paying, and then you feel trapped thinking, going to give you a shopping list of 100 things you could do, and you're probably not going to go for any of it.
Exactly. Then the A is the authority. Easy way to tell if they're the authority is not by their title. You have to ask them this question. Everything that you told me that you want, how does this align with your overall business objective? If they go, I don't know, who the hell knows? Bob knows. Cool. Can we get Bob on the call? It's a nice way of saying, get out of my damn way. And then the T is for timing. Make sure there's no such thing as a bad agency client. There's only a bad prospect or a bad process. And if they want something tomorrow and you know it's going to take 6 months, dude, don't set yourself up for failure. Like move, pivot, get our way. So that's just part of it, like the qualification. Then you have like, how do I position to sell the foot in the door? How do I run those foot in the door? How do I train my sales team? Why does the owner always sell better than a sales team? Because they know all the stories. So can you build so what we've always trained people to do is we build a case story tackle box. So at Agency Mastery, our methodology is this: attract, convert, scale, so you have the opportunity to sell. So we create a Trello board. So when I hire salespeople, I create a Trello board and I have all these success stories for attract, all these success stories for convert, for selling agencies and all this kind of stuff. So then I share that with them. Then they can reference that based on the challenge. Oh, you're struggling with leads. Oh, you're doing all the sales. Oh, you're struggling with all the delivery. Let me tell you about Philip. Let me tell you about Justin. And before you know it, they have their own stories. They can reference that stories and they're way better than you.
Really good advice. All right, let's move into system 6, which is delivery.
Yeah. So it's all about how are you onboarding your clients? How are you setting your team up for success? Right. I would always go, look, especially if I did the selling or the salesperson would do the selling, they'd be like, look, I know we have a relationship, but you don't want me managing your project. Like I have ADD. I'm hard to reach. Right. My team over here is amazing. So you set them up for success and you do a successful handoff. You set those expectations. Like I would always tell people, I go, all right, if it's a 911, call me. If it's 411, call your project manager or account manager.
Yeah.
Right. So clear, set expectations, go back over, figure out a process for scope creep, which always happens. Clients will always ask for stuff that was not included, but you have to educate them on it. One thing I'll tell you in this system, $0 change order. So when someone comes to you for something small, I'd say, cool, Harv, I can do that for you. It's out of scope. Like if it was under an hour, it's out of scope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for free. I'm going to send you a $0 change order. It's going to show you what I would actually charge for it. I just want you to sign it, send it back to me. So you're training them. So when they ask for something big, you can do that. So you can control the scope creep.
Yep. Yep. And you're dropping that kind of reinforcement that there's value to this and it's just not an endless kind of inbox for changes forever, right?
Yep, exactly.
On that point around delivery, Jason, I really appreciate what you've said there, but what can you tell us about kind of profitability or profit leaks? Obviously, scope creep is something you have to be on top of. What else do you see happen that we should be looking out for?
What I realized was before I started time tracking, even if I don't charge hourly, I wasn't tracking time. And when we started tracking time, what I realized was we were losing money on 60% of our projects and our engagements. I was lucky enough that 40% were highly profitable. So we were still in the black, green, or whatever it is. Like we're still making money. And so it all comes down to pricing and really kind of measuring and also having approvals throughout the process. So we did a lot of websites. And so we would say, here's the approval for this part. And then if they changed anything out of that, we could go back and do a change order. And having people on your team that are educated enough and will stand up to the client to say no, or say, we can do this, but it's going to change the timeline. It's going to change the price. Do you want to do this? And make the client say no. That's one of the easy ways to fix profit leaks.
I don't think there's enough training that we do around that piece. Upskilling our teams to have those conversations, perhaps wanting them to have those conversations, but not supporting them in understanding how to have those.
Well, people are yes men, right? It comes back to the people that you hire. You got to say, look, man, like you're not telling them no. Think about how I just framed that. I'm not saying if you ask for something out of scope, I'm not going to say, no, we're not doing that. I said, what did I say? I said, yes, we can do that. It's going to change this and this. Do you want us to do that? So the client's saying no, or the client says yes, and then I send them a change order. So it's just easy mind shift things to train your team. That's part of the CEO and leadership. They're supposed to be coaching and making those people better in your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's this fear, especially in times where pipelines are a bit shallower and budgets are a bit tighter, that we're going to lose the client if we push back. So there's like too much I can't even say that word right now, too tired, too much sway, freedom given to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to get that right.
You have to, or you're going to lose money, and then you're not going to be able to pay the right people to save you time. We're doing this honestly, like to save time. Agencies exist to save brands time because brands can figure all this stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to breeze into system 7, which is operations. So talk us through that.
Yeah, it's really about going back to who do you need to hire, to like from finding that right COO. A great operator is going to come into your agency and they're not going to create more systems. Okay. If you hire an operator and they come in and they look at everything you have and they just start adding on without taking away, like I'd be like, oh my gosh. Like a great operator should save that visionary, that CEO, that owner a lot of time. And it should be constantly saying no to them. No, dude. Like, dude, you're all over the damn place. You want to do what? Let's get focused, right? Because we're not focused. A great operator comes in, looks at a system and goes, man, how do I take 3 systems and make it into one? How do I save my boss time? Right? And really looking at the operations and how do I make it more efficient?
The goal is never to create more
Correct.
complexity, difficulty, right? It's to unlock and make things more efficient.
Exactly.
So absolutely with you there. What size do you see people start bringing in an ops role, or do you recommend, at least if you're at that size, you should have this person in place?
Yeah, probably right around the million mark, or when they have at least 5 to 10. And I'm not talking about hiring a COO, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
not at that level yet at that size. It's more of hiring a director of operations to really help you get to that next part. Because if you hire the right person,
Mm-hmm.
man, it takes off a lot of pressure because you're not making
Yeah.
all those decisions that you've never gone through before,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're not also too, here's the other thing. You don't want to bring in an operator that's used to working with the biggest agencies in the world,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to assume that they had all those resources that they had with you, which
Yeah.
as a smaller agency, you're scrappy, you're more resourceful. Like you
Mm-hmm.
want someone scrappy and resourceful that can pick up the pieces and I don't know, take out the garbage. We'll figure all these little things out that are
Mm-hmm.
not be like, oh, I used to have a huge team to do this. And at the end of the day, the leaders at the biggest agencies, they were really good at leading, but they were really
Mm-hmm.
bad at doing because they didn't have to do it anymore. And sometimes they didn't
Yeah.
even understand how to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. You said million in turnover, I think was the mark, or 5 to 10 headcount.
5 to 10 employees. Yes.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that is perhaps smaller than I would have even thought, which I love to hear actually, because we're all about operations here. And I think I completely agree that it unlocks a lot the sooner you bring in those profiles and those kind of internal facing roles rather than seeing it as a cost and kind of a liability because they're not billable.
Yeah. Because
It just,
think about a lot of owners of agencies at that size, they're doing the sales and they're really good at sales,
hmm
but they're really bad at managing a team. Like I suck as a manager.
hmm
I'm a good leader, but there's a totally different, it's a huge difference. I don't hire anybody I have to manage. They should manage themselves. My whole team
hmm
now, they manage themselves. And the people
hmm
that can't, they have people on my team that manages them because I can't manage them. Right. Like I get
right.
frustrated. I'm like, shit, it should have been done already. Right. But if it allows me to get more time to focus on sales, I could take that $500,000 agency or $1 million agency to two.
Mm.
Right. And then the operator can make it more efficient, more profitable. So then I can bring on more people, eventually build up a sales team, and then I can become something different in that organization.
hmm Which takes us really nicely into system eight, which is leadership.
Yeah. So I look at it this
Talk us
way.
through that.
There's 5 roles, right? For an agency CEO. One, set the vision of the company. It goes back to the first part and
hmm
communicate it to the team all the time. So now they can make decisions without coming to you.
Yeah.
Number 2, be the face of the organization, right? Do podcasts, speak on stage, get out there, right? Like bring people in because people don't buy from brands. They buy for people that they like, know, and trust, right?
hmm
Number 3, coach and mentor your leadership team and show them how to do that for the team under them. Number 4, understand the KPIs or the financials. Understand it. Don't be a spreadsheet nerd, right? Like I showed you my great math skills a little while ago, right? I need to understand like what are the KPIs that I need to be really looking at. And then the last part, build the relationships that only really owners can really build true relationships. That's it.
hmm
And then I always tell people when you achieve that, congratulations, you're going to be completely and utterly depressed because the agency doesn't need you for what you used to do. It needs you
Mm.
for these new roles. And that's what will take you to wherever you want to go.
I love that. There's something else you talk about, like making the transition from founder to CEO. And what is the difference there?
It's
Focusing
those
on
5
these kind.
roles, right? A founder
Right.
is doing anything and everything. They're in delivery, they're in sales, they're taking out the garbage, they're doing everything. And they're trying to, if their team doesn't do something fast enough, like I was just chatting
hmm
with a member at our agency experience last week. I had them do this exercise. I said, to your team, I want you to send just to the people that report to you. What do you want me to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing? And it's funny, owners get all these things back. And with Michelle, they were like, stop doing my work because I didn't do it fast enough. I said it was going to be done on this date, but then you did it. And in her mind, she was like, I'm helping them out. But in their mind, they're like, they don't have confidence in me. So that's the difference between an owner and a CEO.
Love that. So those were the 8 systems. Really quickly, I'm just going to mention them again. So it was clarity, positioning, offering, prospecting, sales, delivery, operations, and leadership.
Yep.
So really appreciate you taking us through that. Out of these 8, do you see some that are underestimated the most or most in need of attention?
The first 3.
First
That's
3.
the foundation. If you don't have those 3 dialed in, everything else will crumble.
Okay. Clarity, positioning, offering are the biggest challenges in your view.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Jason, where can people go and connect with you?
Yeah. Go to agencymastery.io. We give out
Okay.
all of our stuff really for free. Check out the Smart Agency Masterclass. Have over 800 episodes. So a lot of catching up. Had amazing guests on like yourself. So make sure we'll link to you on that and other amazing guests like Seth Godin, the founder of Waze, Guy Kawasaki, but a lot of agency owners you probably never heard of that are amazing as well.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. We're going to put links to all of that in the episode notes so people can go and find that. And yeah, definitely do go check out Smart Agency Masterclass. 12 years, 11 years of content to catch up on, like you said, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Really enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
What I love about Jason's framework is how universal it is. Whether you're an agency or a consultancy, the pattern is the same. You can't scale on talent and hustle alone. You need clarity so the team can make decisions without you. You need positioning that speaks to real client challenges. You need an offer that builds trust and leads to predictable revenue. And you need delivery, ops, and leadership systems that protect your margins and give you back time. If there's someone in your world who's grappling with growth ceilings, a COO, a CFO, a founder, please share this episode with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. And if you didn't do this earlier, please take a moment to take the Handbook listener survey. It's bit.ly/handbook25 survey. That's it for me this week. Thanks very much for joining us. This podcast is brought to you by Scoro, a platform designed for agencies and consultancies, which allows you to manage your projects, finances, and resources, all from one system. This is a platform I brought in at a previous workplace, which completely transformed the way we worked, and which I've recommended to clients of my own. You can sign up for a free trial on Scoro.com. That's SCORO.com. Or reach out to me, Harv Nagra, on LinkedIn if you'd like to hear about some of my experiences.